Welcome. I've made this presentation less than the required 15 minutes. Please feel free to pause at any point to stop, read, and reflect. I've included a few short voice notes on every text slide. Nothing too long. Mostly, I'd like you to read and listen, guided by the music and your thoughts on the chapter.
Before the first white people set foot on the North American continent, a small tribe of Eskimos, the Inuit, roamed the central Canadian Arctic. They were the people of the deer. Their survival depended on the herds of caribou that shared the Arctic tundra with them. But when the herds diminished in the 1950s, so too did the Inuit. Stricken by famine and disease, they were relocated by government decree to Eskimo Point in the Keewatin district of the Northwest Territories.
Hey, it's the CBC. They're here.
Oh, you've arrived!
To say Mowat was a writer and environmentalist reduces a very large life to too few words.
Help me to understand that if I wanted to go on living in the world, the real world, I had to learn to understand who and what I was, and who and what my people were, the human people.
In this chapter, Mowat discusses the shape of the law among the Inuit people.
Thinking about this story as creative nonfiction, is Mowat's story personal, or public? The symphony, Mowat shares personal events and also facts. Despite being a white man, Mowat wants us to know that he is not the white man. Mowat adopts an approach of cultural relativism and open-mindedness. Mowat comes back to the idea that children, and only children, are not subject to the law. Which is more real? Written or unwritten law? These are the two great laws of Inuit life, according to Mowat. Scholarly literature seems to agree with Mowat's report. Mowat chronicles the great crimes of Inuit life, at least to white eyes. The power of the traditional shaman in law enforcement. The shaman would only intervene for the benefit of the community.
A true test of cultural relativism. When and where can we permit infanticide, and against whom? Statistics bear out the facts of Inuit female infanticide. Studies show that Inuit likely did not kill their daughters purely for reasons of male dominance, but because they believed they had to. Yet the question remains, why doesn't Mowat mention the huge female bias when discussing infanticide?
What happens when native law clashes with Canadian law? Is Mowat a national hero for telling Canada's stories? Or is he a villain for deceiving us?
Clearly, Mowat was not as insistent on literal facts as many other non-fiction writers.
To what extent can a non-fiction writer be wary of facts?
Your question is rather interesting. You said how much is fact and how much is imagination? To which I reply, it is all true, and to hell with the facts.
Did Mowat betray the nation that revered him? Can we defend Mowat for raising a necessary debate? Was Mowat condemned simply for being a troublemaker?
Why, you red-coated, tomato-livered pisspot, you yelled at...
Did I say that to an RCMP?
That's what you
Well,
said.
bully for me.
Did you feel you were the typical or intended reader for this story? Is there a backhanded disrespect in the way Mowat writes about the Inuit people? Can outsiders tell inside stories? Who is entitled to write about First Nations people? Who is entitled to write about Northern identity?
The other story behind People of the Deer.
These are the last remaining members of one of the oldest tribes in the world, the Inuit, a Stone Age people. They were roaming the central Arctic some 8,000 years before the birth of Christ.
Sadly, history has proven Mowat right when it came to the Inuit people.
I never heard my mother talk about the past, neither my aunts. Maybe they're protecting me from the hurt that they felt.
If Mowat's writing brought attention to a crisis in Canada's treatment of First Nations people, does it matter if it's not literally true?
I survived because I was on my mother's back. My mother took with her 4 children, and she pulled 2 younger ones, and the 2 oldest one had to walk. So she got tired, probably, and left the 2 girls. And the other girl died, but my other sister survived.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. I look forward to reading your responses in the forums. And one last word from Mowat himself.
Life will carry on, and it will be as if we never have existed upon this earth. And the earth will be green where it should be green, and blue where it should be blue, and there will be lots of life without us.